Welcome to the Utah Puck Report. I'm your host, Jay Stevens. Glad to be here. Want to thank our sponsors, Larry H. Miller Toyota of Murray. You know, when you buy a Toyota from them, your family, you can check them out at larryhmillertoyota.com. Special guest today. And Daniel Amesbury, I got to tell you, man, when I first met you, I was e-bugging for Kansas City against Utah. And, you know, I think the first day I went in there, everybody's pretty quiet. I think I went in on a game day. I don't remember, but the second day I got to come in for a practice. You came up and introduced yourself. And I think we were sitting next to each other. We started talking. I thought you were punking me. So, and I'll tell you why. But first off, thanks for being on the show. And congratulations. Kansas City just advanced to the next round of playoffs.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Always appreciate it. And yeah, it was definitely a fun weekend for us when we first met, and we're happy to have you. We definitely needed you.
Oh yeah, almost actually needed me. So, but let's talk. Like, you came up, you start talking to me. I'm getting your history and just kind of filling it out. And you tell me this story, and I'm like, that's the guy off Shoresy. Like, this isn't real. Like, I figured you were just punking me, seeing if I watched Shoresy. But I think there's a character on Shoresy, kind of basically based on you, right? Can you tell us a little bit about your story, like growing up and playing hockey, and then you took a little break? Can you tell us about all that?
Yeah, so to start out, like I didn't take a normal route for most guys that go through the professional system. I didn't really play a ton of like elite level. I'd always kind of be the next level down from the AAA teams, and then I think I played AAA one time in midget, and then I played junior B in BC. And after I was done junior, I didn't really think I was going to play again. And I ended up going to work on the pipeline. And when I was working, I had a friend call me and ask if I wanted to go try out for this team. He said it was a pro team. Like, what? I've never heard of this league, and it was in the Federal Hockey League.
Oh man.
So I'm thinking Federal Hockey League. All I'm thinking is the movie Slapshot.
Yeah, the Chiefs.
So that's kind of how it started, and I ended up going to a tryout in the FHL, and I think I played 7 games in that league before I got called up to the SPHL, and just kind of kept chipping away. So my first few seasons, I ended up getting to the Double A, kind of where the same level as where I'm at now. I was in the Central Hockey League. Played in that league for a couple of seasons, and that was around 2014. And obviously I kind of took the hard route. I was fighting lots, kind of just sticking up for the guys and just doing whatever I had to do to stick around and make the team. And it worked, and kind of kept moving up. So I ended up in the Central League, and then that's kind of where my hockey career kind of took a little bit of a pause. It was 2014. It was my second year in the Central, and I think I was playing in Denver, and we were affiliated with the Colorado Avalanche at the time. And I can't remember I think Lake Erie Monsters possibly was their AHL team. And that was my last season. I was just struggling, and just wasn't there all there mentally, just having some issues that I need to sort out. And when I ended up, years later, kind of when I run into you, I came out of retirement. So I didn't play pro hockey for 8 years. Retired in 2014, and then I came back. I'm now just about finished. We're in playoffs now of my 3rd season coming out of retirement. So came out of retirement at 31, and I'm 34 now.
So, and what were you doing right before that? Because I know about Ice Wars, but weren't you playing lacrosse or something too?
Yeah. Yeah. So during my time off, that was kind of one of the things. I was obviously working, and then while I was working, I was playing indoor lacrosse, box lacrosse. It's similar to hockey in a lot of ways. Obviously there's field lacrosse. We play in like a hockey rink. Box lacrosse is in a hockey rink, and really aggressive sport, like very much like hockey, very high energy. And then obviously there is the role of an enforcer in box lacrosse as well. And there is quite a few fights in box lacrosse, which, like I said, for Americans that grew up with field lacrosse, it just sounds crazy. But as you get to know the game more and you get to know hockey more, you start to understand, where that comes from in the culture.
Yeah, honestly, it seems like the more Canadians like adopt sports, they start mixing more hockey into it. So, and I'm surprised there's not fighting in curling, but maybe I'm just watching the wrong leagues.
Well, the crazy part, so box lacrosse, so there's two, like there's indoor lacrosse and outdoor lacrosse. So indoor, there's like the NLL, National Lacrosse League, and there's fighting in that. And there's not tons, but they'll fight in that. And then the another crazy stat most people probably wouldn't know is Canada's national sport was box lacrosse up until I think it was only about 1994, or it was in the 90s when they added hockey as their national sport. So
Oh,
hockey only
wow.
recently became Canada's national sport with box lacrosse. So they're both the national sport.
Oh, wow. I did not know
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So now tell us, I've seen some of the videos. You showed me some videos of what Ice Wars was. And like I started looking at some of the guys you had to fight and some of the other guys that were involved in that. And there were some monsters. So how did that come
Yeah.
about? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so that's essentially kind of one of the reasons I came out of retirement. I've just kind of always joked around with some of my friends about, oh, only like fighting and hockey, because I had this strange skill, right? And it's like, if you're good at fighting and hockey, that's good for hockey, but that's it, right? So when this kind of came about, there's Ice Wars, who AJ Galante, one of my good friends now, at the time I didn't really know him, I knew of him.
Wow.
He put on this event called Ice Wars, and it was essentially a hockey fighting tournament. And his whole thing is he wanted to honor, all these enforcers that had such a tough job, and kind of went through the trenches in pro hockey and stuff like that. And he kind of wanted to make something just for guys like us. And I thought it was really cool. And right away I heard about it. I'm like, I have to do this. And so I started messaging AJ right away. I think I kind of hounded him a little bit and just told him, um, you know, I'm ready. I'll fight whoever. And he thought I was a little bit small, and he thought I was a little bit crazy because he didn't know, if I could, how I would do against some of these guys, because some of them were pretty big boys. And yeah, I ended up going in Ice Wars, and it was a 8-man tournament, last man standing. And I ended up winning the whole tournament. And yeah, it was a really crazy night. It was in Edmonton at River Creek Casino. And yeah, it was a really intense night, really crazy. I had to fight 3 times in one night.
Jeez.
And then my phone started ringing pretty much the next day. ECHL teams, SPHL teams, Federal Hockey League teams. Just everybody's trying to talk me into coming out of retirement. So that's kind of where
So
where my second term of my pro hockey career began.
how old were you when you knew that I mean, do you like to fight or do you just realize that's part of the role that you're expected?
Yeah, like I can't say like I don't, yeah, it's a little bit of a rush, I guess you can say. Like I guess because I have the skill, it's like one of those things. It's like if you're good at stuff, it makes it a little more fun.
Yeah.
It's like your talent, kind of a crazy one to have, I guess. But yeah, it started when I was young. I would say just yeah, it was always just a way to make the team for me. Like I said, I was kind of the bubble player. I wasn't on every AAA team and stuff like that. So when I got to junior, I basically knew like the only way I'm going to make this team is if I'm willing to do absolutely anything. And that's what I did at my first junior tryout. And I remember fighting a 21-year-old. I think I was maybe 17. And went fairly well, and the coaches were really surprised, and they were super excited. And then next thing you know, I'm fighting every middleweight in the league, and then now it ends up fighting the big guy, and you do okay, and then it just kind of snowball effect from there.
Wow. Do you do you now I've seen that you kind of practice, but do you study all styles of fighting? Do you box? Do you take lessons on fighting?
Yeah, so like Ice Wars is really cool for that because I was specifically training for the fight. So I kind of adopted a lot of new training methods. But like as far as like in the season or just even in the summer, like I love boxing. Like I think boxing is great for any athlete in any sport because just the way it teaches you to move your body and kind of use your body weight and stuff. I think it's just it correlates with a lot of sports. So boxing is kind of my foundation, I would say. And then I've done Greco-Roman wrestling and kind of some grappling stuff, and I've trained specifically for hockey fighting with some of my MMA buddies as well, and learned a lot of different kind of tricks along the way. But nothing really teaches you better than just experience in the game, and those fights that I got to have early on in my career helped me a lot and kind of helped me learn on what works, and how to fight the big guys and how to fight the little guys and stuff like that.
That's interesting. Like the first time I ever saw, like I remember a camp that I went to in juniors, and there were guys that were like starting to do pull ups, and they'd throw towels around the pull up bar so they'd get better grip for jersey strength. And then I played with a guy named Jeremy Yablonsky, and I played with a guy named Mike Scroy, and those guys
Right.
were,
I know those guys. Yeah, they're
yeah, I
some
bet you
tough
probably
guys.
fought them. Like that was years ago, but those guys would like we'd have practice and they'd leave practice and go to MMA. And
Yeah.
that was the first that I'd really seen of it. And that was 15, 20 years ago. But yeah, it's pretty crazy. Um, so now you're back to pro, and it seems like you're having a blast. Like you seem to really be enjoying being back at being a pro. Is it better this second time around?
Yeah, 100%. And I think more so just because I'm a little bit more like I'm just like, I'm here and now, like I'm very like grateful for it. And I'm very like, I kind of understood like as a younger guy, the mistakes maybe that I made and maybe wasn't as focused as I would have liked to be, or that I wish I would have been, I guess you could say. But yeah, I think this time around, there's a lot more gratitude, that's for sure. And just like happy to be there. Like I say, I wouldn't be doing it if I didn't love it. And yeah, I love every minute of it. And just, from the time spent on the bus with the boys to the dressing room. When you're away from the game, those are really the things that you miss the most. And getting a chance to kind of be around it again, it's just one of those things where you just appreciate it so much more when you went without it. So yeah, I'm loving every step of it, and that's kind of why I'm going to continue playing. And yeah, it's been really fun. So
It was fun to watch you in the locker room. It was fun to watch you on the ice. I think Tato has a really good ability of bringing in guys that like make the locker room a fun place to be. And I know that fun for some people is a bad word, right? Like especially if you're talking
yeah.
about pro hockey, but man, it's a grind. And if you're not having fun, it's just more of a grind. And you guys seem to be doing it right. And looks like you guys are having success at it too.
Yeah, I think it's an important part of any game is, you gotta go, at the end of the day, you gotta be having fun. And when you lose that, you kind of lose a little bit of fire in your game, I think. So it's something we'll talk about in the room. Like just, boys, at the end of the day, like we're playing, like we gotta win, we gotta do our jobs out there, but like remember it's a game and just have some fun while you're doing it, kind of stay loose, right? Because sometimes if you're not having fun, you can get a little tight and it just makes things a little harder out there. But I think we got a great group as far as that department, and Tad does do a good job recruiting. I think most of the guys on our team have been a captain at some point, and I think that's that alone is just kind of shows you what Tad prioritizes as he's bringing guys in.
Yeah, I've been really impressed with Tad every time I played with him. And from what he looks like on the exterior, you expect him to be one way, and then you get to meet him, and he's just such a smart and well spoken coach. Like he's one of my favorites in the league. He's just a great dude. Um, can you
Yeah, I
tell
mean
me a
we've
little?
we've had a
I'm
really
sorry.
good year, so
Yeah, you guys
no,
looks
no
like you're having
problem.
an amazing year, and it hopefully it keeps rolling. Can you tell me a little bit about the code of hockey? Like you hear that come up a lot, and a lot of my audience is somewhat new to hockey, and they think they understand the code. And honestly, I think I understand the code when it comes to protecting your goaltender and stepping up for your skill players. But can you tell me what your role is as an enforcer?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, at the end of the day, nowadays you got to be able to play the game. Like it's not like it used to be where you have guys kind of sitting on the bench for playing, a minute a game, like they used to do. It's you got to be able to play the game. But
Yeah,
the big part of like I guess the code, one of the main things I would say is it's kind of like having respect for the game. One of the main things obviously is if you do get in a fight, like if one guy goes down, you're not going to hit him when he's down. If you see that, kind of if you threw out hockey, if a guy goes down, generally speaking, you're not going to see another guy hit him. And if he does, like a lot of times you'll see him, oh no, like he'll apologize right away. Like it's just heat of the moment and stuff. But, that's kind of one of the things like, hey, if I'm going to step up and give you a fight, then, have some respect for me. If my knee goes and touches the ice or if I'm on the ground, you're not going to keep hitting me. So that's just like the absolute bare bones and kind of just the idea behind it. But also too, like, if you do take a run at Borchardt or one of my better players, Andriov or any of the skilled guys or anyone for that matter, if you hurt a guy, you got to answer the bell. And I think like that's one part of the code that maybe you see some guys don't want to. So a little bit more nowadays. Some guys don't
yeah,
want to honor that part of it, but
like
that's
Marchand.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. I just think like that's kind of the one part of the code you kind of see dwindling away that I wish would, at the end of the day, like if you take a run at a good player, you kind of got to answer the bell. And I respect any guy that does. I've seen it quite a few times this year where guys have taken a run at guys on either our team or another team and they stand up and they answer the bell. And, I think that's great when guys do that and it shows great character. All the way through the code though, another thing is if just at the end of the day, like we're all out here just respect for the game, not doing foolish stuff, and kind of like the code, it's funny because it like it seems counterintuitive to have a guy like me on the team or have like quote unquote an enforcer. Like was this is gonna be like why you want these guys out there fighting, but it actually kind of the code and the enforcer role and like having that sheriff on the ice or having that policeman essentially, it does keep the game in check and it does keep the game a little bit cleaner. Like guys are thinking twice before they're going to elbow someone in the head because it's like if you only had to worry about to getting a penalty when you do something dirty, if I'm going to cross check a guy in the face and the only thing I have to worry about is sitting in the penalty box for 5 minutes or whatever, it's really not that big of a deterrent. If I really get pissed off and I want to hurt somebody, which I'm sure people do at times, they just heat of the moment, right?
Yeah.
Then what's the deterrent? Oh, I got to sit in the penalty box. Yeah, big deal. But if you got to think about okay, am I going to go sit in the penalty box? But then when I get out, I'm going to have this guy breathing down my neck, and he's going to either make me fight me, or he's going to make me fight him, or whatever. Who knows? Maybe he does the same thing to me. It's kind of a little bit more of a deterrent, and it kind of keeps the game a little bit more in check. And I think one of the things I always say is if you watch like college hockey where there isn't fighting, you'll see a lot of guys getting slashed and cross-checked and dirty hits and hits from behind, and they don't really have that accountability where they have to worry about someone coming out and making them fight if they do. So that's kind of my take on the code and what it is.
Yeah, I think that pretty much nails it. You've seen a little bit lately too, like, man, you talk about taking a run at a skill player, like, but what if it's just a good open ice clean hit? Does that have to
Yeah.
be answered
So
or
me personally, I don't like I like that part of the game. I think it's fine. So if it's a clean hit, it should be okay. But the
yeah,
way the game has gotten, it's kind of at the point now where it's like just an auto fight on a big hit,
yeah.
which I can't say I'm a huge fan of it. Um, do I partake in that? I would say a little bit because it's kind of the standard now. So I'm not gonna go and run a guy on their team and then I have to fight every time, even if it's a clean check. And I got to do the same thing the other way, I guess you can say, because it's kind of just progressed that way. I don't love that. I don't love that. I think everybody should be able to make a hit if it's clean.
Yeah.
If it's a big clean check, I think it's fine. But I think it depends on who you're playing to. I think it's one of those things where the posts kind of move a little bit. I know the guys I like. Essentially, it kind of depends on who's the enforcer on the other team and how do they draw the line? Where do they draw the line? I'll have
Oh,
the
okay.
same respect. That's kind of the way I work. Like if I'm playing against a guy, there's some guys in the league I have tons of respect for, and they're all cool with the clean checks, and I just know how they play. They're going to be finishing all their checks. They'll be okay with me finishing my checks as long as it's not dirty. And if we need to fight, we fight. And I know that's how it is with those guys. There's other guys that are different, and I think the lines can kind of move depending on what teams you're playing and how the game goes.
That's interesting. I never thought about that part of it. Like you guys kind of have like you talk to the officials, let's just keep it consistent. But there's
Yeah,
different officials that their idea of consistent is different. I
yeah.
never thought about enforcers having that.
Yeah.
That's really
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. And another thing, like, is if it does start coming closer to that line, I'll let him know. I'll say, hey, you better let these guys know this is it. Like any farther, or if you keep up doing what you're doing, then that's the line, right? Like so he kind
Yeah.
of there'll be a little bit of a communication, depending on who the guys are, obviously, right? But there can sometimes be a little communication between those two guys, like, hey, you better keep your guys in check, or we're gonna have one, or and then maybe he just says, I don't care, we're gonna go, but lots of times there will be a little bit of banter back and forth and just kind of keeping each other in check and letting the boys know, hey, like let's, turn it up, turn it down, whatever we got to do. But at the end of the day, it's one of those things. It's ever changing.
Yeah, it's dynamic.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly. It's
the
dynamic.
game
Right?
we played, I don't remember who it was. Somebody from Utah took threw a cheap shot and then would not answer the bell. And you guys like everybody on the team basically at one point tried to get him to fight. And then we had the goalie fight, and
Yeah.
it seems like maybe if it would have been answered at the beginning,
The whole game would have been calmer, you
yeah,
know? And like that's the perfect example of why the code, like the other thing is too, when you do those kind of things, you're kind of throwing the rest of your team under the bus.
oh yeah,
Because if you think about it this way, it's like this is kind of what'll happen. And this is just, you know, how sports and like men running at high RPMs, especially when the game and there's as much energy as there is with hockey, like it like it's very different than a lot of sports. It's very high energy. I mean, you know, you've been there. But when that does happen and that guy doesn't answer the bell, well, now you got all the guys on our team looking for some sort of retribution. So next thing you know, if a guy has his back turned, or maybe he's in a vulnerable spot, and one of our guys finishes his check because they made a dirty hit already. So now
yeah,
I'm looking for blood, you know, and it kind of just you where if that bell gets answered and they in the fight it happens after the first dirty hit, then everything's squashed and we can move on and play the game. Nobody has to worry about getting retribution. So you're kind of taking a little bit of weight off your teammates' shoulders when you fight in those situations, and that can be another reason that guys will fight, just to kind of lower stress levels and, you know, fire guys up a little bit.
yeah. And you see fighting. Sometimes your team gets down 3-0 in the first period or something. You need a motivator, and and the enforcers are like, hey, we're gonna go, and so
Yeah, and
it's used for that too.
that could be another thing where you have the guys kind of communicating with each other, and how much respect do these guys have for each other. You know, like there's lots of guys in our league that have a lot of respect where I'll be down a couple and I'm like, hey man, do me a solid, like give me one. You know, it's probably not the smartest if you're up 3-0 to
Yeah,
fight. You know what I mean? Especially if it was in my bar in my arena, right? Like if it's a game in Kansas City, it's probably not the greatest idea for the guy to give the opportunity for me to get my fans fired up and get the team going, you know, by fighting. But a lot of times they'll say yes. And then for me, I kind of know I owe him one. So
yeah. It's
he
part of the
gave me
code,
that
right?
one. Yeah. So the next time, that's another part of the code. Exactly. So the next time, if he needs one and we're in his arena and I'm like, I don't know if it's a good time, I'm going to give it to him because I remember when he did that for me. So
So speaking of that game, the goalie for Kansas City that fought,
Victor Ostman.
and then how cool was that to see him get his NHL debut in Utah?
Yeah.
I mean,
Such a cool story.
yeah, I wanted to talk to him after, and it's because I get to cover both locker rooms, but I ended up leaving that night and not covering either locker rooms. I wanted to go down and talk to
Yeah.
him because when he got off the ice, he's like, "Man, I forgot I had an e-bug." He's like, "I never
Yeah.
meant to put you in that position," and I'm like, "That was a blast, man. That was so fun to watch." And he's like, "That was my first fight," and he was good. Like,
Oh yeah.
looks like you were teaching him
So
some good
yeah,
stuff.
you know what's funny is at the very beginning of the year when we just finished kind of going through training camp and stuff, I would kind of peel guys off at the end of practice and like show them some things about fighting and stuff. Some of the guys coming out of college, people would ask me, and I remember one time very specifically, I'm sitting there and I have a group of maybe 6 guys and we're showing them the basics of fighting, and I got Victor there, and I've been like, Vic, what are you doing here? He's like, well, you never know, Ames. I'm like, all right, respect. So yeah, I don't know if I helped him at all, but I would like to take some credit, but I don't think I can. That was just a good
Yeah,
punch. Sorry.
yeah,
And yeah, so I mean, this long story short, the game got out of hand. Somebody didn't answer the bell on the code, and the game started to get out of hand. I was in the penalty box at the time. He skates up to center. Their goalie's kind of already challenging everybody. He's punching everyone on the ice, trying to fight
right.
everyone. And then Vic kind of skates to center. And I had a crazy view of it because I'm looking at our goalie and then I'm looking at our bench behind it, and everybody's yelling, don't fight, like thinking we got an e-bug, like you're going to be playing goalie if he gets kicked out. I think we were up like 7 goals though. So it was
Yeah, we were
probably,
up 6.
we would have been fine. We talk about it all the time. We wish that you would have gone in because we still would have won. We still think we would have won the game. Like we would have been like,
That
we keep them under 10 shots. We're fine.
Tad told me they wouldn't get 6 shots. He's like, we got a six
Yeah,
goal
I don't
lead. They
think
won't get
so.
6 shots.
Well, the way we were playing, I honestly think we would have been completely fine. And I think about it now, I'm like, man, I wish that you would have went in. That would have been a hell of a
I
story.
wish I
But
would have too.
but
I've done well. I've done well in the games I got put in.
yeah.
So
So yeah, it was fun though. So then it was really crazy to see like Vic had an amazing season. That was, I don't know how long ago that was in Utah when we were playing in Utah and you were playing on our team. And then you know, fast forward maybe 2 or 3 months, maybe 3 months or something like that. He's in the AHL, then he gets called up to the NHL in Utah with Seattle Kraken and plays his first NHL game in the same city that he one punched another goalie a few months earlier. crazy story. I wish that the announcers would have known that story. I'm like, they probably would have told this. Like, if
And
they knew how
yeah,
crazy this story was, they would have loved to talk about it.
and I immediately started tweeting it, and then I was pulling up the video from him fighting and
Nice.
stuff, and yeah, I should have got a hold of the because I know the media crew for Utah, obviously,
Yeah.
but I was kind of in my own world, just thinking how cool that
Yeah.
was.
Yeah. It
Um,
was awesome.
so besides being a fighter and an enforcer, man, you're doing a ton of stuff around your town, and I was good friends with George Peros, and he's one of the guys that I was always surprised that he was a fighter because he's one of the smartest guys I've ever known. And you want to talk about somebody that consistently gives back to the community. He's like, and he doesn't do it in the press either. And I'm seeing a lot of that with you too. Is that where does that come from? Is that just natural
Um,
or
yeah, I think it just, I mean, in the end of the day, I think like as a just human, I just feel like it feels good to like help out or just, try and give back in some way. And just knowing like what it was like as a kid to like see a pro, like, oh, this guy's a professional hockey player. Listen, like I'm not in the NHL, but these kids still think it's pretty cool. Any chance I get to be in the community helping out and doing stuff, I do. And I was in the running this year for, I don't know what the award is called, but there's like an ECHL like Man of the Year award, and I was in the running for it. I didn't get it. The kid that got it really deserved it. Like he did a ton of charity work and stuff. So there's no way I could have got it out of that. But it was pretty cool to even see my name on that list that they were considering me. And at the end of the day, I just think that that's a huge part of like what I want to do with this coming out of retirement and playing again. It's like a whole part of the reason I'm doing this is I want to kind of show people you can kind of do anything. Like when I first came out of retirement, nobody ever thought I was going to be playing in the ECHL with an NHL affiliation, team and just to be where I am. So I just kind of want to motivate people. And I feel like getting out and talking to these kids and just, giving them any guidance I can and just kind of motivating them to really chase their dreams and believe in themselves. That's pretty much why I'm here. So I take every chance I get to get out and give back. And, I just think that's just natural human instinct. And I don't know if it maybe happened more as I got older, but I just, makes me feel good. And I just love being able to help. So
there's something about being a little older. There's something about having your second chance that makes you appreciate it a little bit more and want to share it a little bit more. And it's been fun.
yeah,
Daniel, you're an amazing person. It's fun
thank
to
you.
watch you play. I appreciate you being on the show. You're exactly the kind of person hockey needs, and I'm glad
Thank
you
you.
got back in it, man. It's been fun to watch it. Uh,
Awesome. I appreciate it.
Before I let you go, is there anything you want to say to the Utah audience or even
No,
some
I,
Kansas City guys?
I'm super fired up for everything going on in Utah. I think the ownership's just doing a great job at growing the game, and it's exciting for me. Like I'm just watching stuff like that. Like I love being in cities where the game is still in the early stages. Like, I feel like that's kind of where I'm at in Kansas City. Like hockey's not huge here. I love being in places like that because you get to share it with so many people and just getting out and giving tickets to people. A Uber driver to give them tickets, and they're like, "Oh my god, I didn't know how awesome this sport was." I love that, and I love that your whole city's getting to go through it together. And I mean, you get your ownerships, buildings, arenas for the kids and stuff. And I'm really excited to see where it goes. I think there's nothing but positive things going on there. And I'm really excited for everyone in the fan base in Utah to just get what they deserve with the game of hockey and get to learn about it and kind of share it with each other because it's a beautiful game. And as they learn more and more, they'll just appreciate it more and more. So I'm excited for everything you guys have going on.
Yeah, us too, man. And it's the more people that get crazy about hockey, I think it's going to be harder and harder for them to sell basketball tickets for that arena because
You
there's
might be
just
right.
there's nothing like hockey.
Yeah, they
All
might
right,
need a third hockey team there.
Daniel Amesbury, and that's the rumor. The rumor is we're getting the AHL's coming here and the
I don't see
ECHL's
why not.
coming
Why
in
not
here.
have every level?
Yeah, it's going to be amazing.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. Tell the boys good luck for me. Tell Tad that I
Thank you.
said hi. And
Awesome.
you know, I was with you guys this year, so I need you to win the championship and
Yes, sir.
send me a ring.
There you go. Right on. Okay. Well, I appreciate everything. And like I said, it was great to meet you and I appreciate you having me on and I appreciate everything you're doing for Utah hockey. I think it's awesome. So,
Hey,
um,
and you have a podcast too. Tell us what your podcast is.
yeah, I have a podcast with AJ Galante. It's called the Talking Trash Podcast. And if you haven't seen the documentary about the Danbury Trashers on Netflix, it's called Untold Crime and Penalties. Crazy story about minor
Big
league
jerseys.
pro hockey. Yeah, and So yeah, that's kind of where everything kind of restarted with me. So me and AJ have a podcast and like to talk about hockey and kind of just kind of hang out just like this and catch up on some stuff.
Outstanding. All right. Well, hopefully everybody checks that out. And that is the Utah Puck Report.